and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick, with the city's Communication and Marketing Department. And today we're going to talk about housing programs and some federal money that can help you make improvements to your house if you meet certain criteria. And my guests today are Angelique Shenk from the Neighborhoods Department. Welcome, Angelique.
Thank you, Robin.
And Aaron Carter from the Housing and Redevelopment Authority.
Thank you.
Glad to have you back.
Me too.
Now, we've talked in general about some specific programs before with you, Aaron, but what I wanted to talk about a little bit more today was this, the federal money that comes to Hampton and the strings that come with it and sort of what it can do and what it can't do. Because I know it's come up at City Council, some complaints about some limitations, and I don't understand it. So, Angelique, I'm going to start with you because you know this inside and out. How does it work?
Well, I just wanted to start off by just giving you a little bit of background about the program.
Okay.
The City of Hampton does receive federal grant money from the federal government, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and I won't use acronyms throughout the
presentation. You can say it once.
So once, okay, so specifically we're talking about the Community Development Block Grant Program, or CDBG, and the Home Investment Partnership Program, or HOME for short. And so the City of Hampton is an entitlement community, so each year we get those funds as long as we meet all of the grant requirements throughout the year. And so we work very closely with the Hampton Redevelopment and Housing Authority to offer housing programs to the public. And so we fund a variety of housing programs through the Housing Authority, like wheelchair ramps, exterior improvement grants, weatherization and energy efficiency, but also some larger scale home improvement grants in the form of deferred loans for Hampton homeowners. And as you mentioned earlier in your introduction, we have come under some criticism regarding the number of people that we're able to help and the infeasible projects that we encounter during the year. And that's because a lot of the requirements associated with the housing programs really come from the federal government. We do have a little bit of local control in terms of designing the programs, but that local control has to be consistent with the federal guidelines. And we can talk about some of the specifics if you'd like us to go into that.
Well, let's talk generally about the guidelines, because this is obviously not for every homeowner. It's
Correct.
Designed to aid certain people who may need more help than others. And so, in general, what are some of those criteria?
Well, the federal guidelines require that all of the funds go towards low and moderate income people. And that definition of who qualifies as low and moderate income is set by the federal government.
Okay.
For example, in our area, a family of four could not make more than $56,700 to meet that criteria of low and moderate income people. And I know that when we use that term, low and moderate income people, a lot of people at home are like, I am low income, I'm moderate income, but it's up to Aaron's staff to really crunch the numbers and see if those folks meet that definition. And unfortunately, if you're even, a dollar over that amount, we are unable to assist you with the federal funds.
And that is a federal requirement. You have no leeway there.
That is correct.
Okay.
And we also have some other requirements in terms of the property itself. Homeowners have to have property insurance and homeowners insurance in order for us to assist them. And that is a federal requirement.
And some people, obviously if you have a mortgage, you generally have to have insurance. But I do know people who've inherited a home or who have it paid off who make the choice that they can't afford that because they have other needs. So that's correct. A hard and fast rule then,
Absolutely.
Right? Okay.
And we've experienced a lot of folks in that exact same situation, but that is not something that we have wiggle room on. If you do not carry homeowners insurance on your property, we are unable to assist you with those funds.
Okay.
And we also have, and maybe Aaron, you want to share some of the other property restrictions, such as the infeasibility of projects based on the needs of the home.
Right. In most, well, I won't say most cases, but in cases where the program calls for a certain amount of money to go towards the home when we go out and do our property assessment, sometimes there's cases where the project is just unfeasible. There's not enough money to actually fix the home. So in that case, we actually have to deny the client in that case. There's other income qualifications that we have to qualify individuals on. Like Angelique mentioned, there's a certain amount of money that you can only make in order to qualify for the program. So we go through a process of asking people for documents to verify their income. And I really want to say to the viewing audience, if you think you are low income and may qualify for our programs, I really want to ask you to bring in the documentation that we ask you for, because that's the only way we'll be able to qualify you for the program.
So sometimes people who may apply need a lot of paperwork and it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I think that can, you've said that there are some people who just don't complete the paperwork or can't find things or, need help. But again, that's the federal requirements. You don't have wiggle room there. You have to kind of march your way through those levels of paperwork or red tape, which I'm sure red tape is a derogatory term, but what it means is you have to ensure that the funds are going to the people you say they're going to, the people that meet the qualifications.
That's correct. And I actually like to piggyback off a couple of things that Aaron mentioned. With regard to the paperwork, ultimately the Housing Authority and the City of Hampton are responsible for making sure that everyone who receives assistance is actually eligible for the program. And the U.S. government actually comes down and reviews our files to ensure that all those I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And if we don't have the proper documentation in the file, then we are required to pay those funds back. And so that's why
it could put the whole program at risk.
Absolutely. That's why it's so important to make sure that we have all of that documentation in the file, because if we fudge on one thing, we really could jeopardize the entire program and we wouldn't be able to assist other homeowners. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the property requirements. There are two federal programs that we work with. That Home Investment Partnership Program really is the program that's geared towards affordable housing. And so a majority of our housing programs are funded from that funding source. And that funding source requires that if we put one nickel of federal funds into that property, that we bring that up to the minimum code standards as set out by the City of Hampton.
And that's what's really come under some fire, at least at recent city council meetings. And there was a very entertaining story that Hugh Bassett told about Uncle Bubba, and I don't know the details of the homeowner, the name, which is actually probably good, but this is someone maybe who needed help with a leaky roof. Mm-hmm. But what happens is, and not in this case, but in general, what you're saying there, tell me a kind of story about why that person couldn't get help.
Well, in particular, the Home Investment Partnership Program project that we have funds property improvements up to $25,000. And so within that $25,000 limit, we need to make sure that we can bring that property completely up to the city code requirements. And as Aaron mentioned earlier, when someone applies for the program and they're determined to be income eligible, he does send an inspector out to their home to complete a work write-up so that they can begin to make that assessment. The needed improvements to bring this up to minimum code standards, can we accomplish that within the program regulations and the program limit?
And the value of the home. I think that's come into consideration sometimes too, because you can't put more into a home than it's going to be worth.
That's correct. We do have some limitations on the amount that we can invest in a particular home. And so we've encountered some where a homeowner may come in and they will ask for one specific thing, but when we send the inspector out,
or a leaky window.
Correct. But when we send the inspector out to do the assessment of the home, it's determined that there are other things that are needed in order to bring that property up to code. And that is a requirement that we have as a part of the program. We can't really do the small fixes, the Band-Aids, and fix one component even though we know there are several other things that your home needs. We have to be comprehensive, and that's a good thing and a bad thing in some respects. It's a good thing because sometimes homeowners are not knowledgeable to know what they may need in terms of bringing your property up to minimum code standards. So a lot of times we're able to address things and deficiencies that homeowners didn't even realize were problematic. But in some cases, particularly the ones that we've come under criticism for, that puts people outside of our program limit. And what we try to do in those particular cases is try to work with the homeowner to see, are there other community agencies out there that have funds that can help to address some of the issues, and perhaps we can, with a variety of funding sources, we can cobble together the right set of resources to be able to correct your issue. Sometimes it's very frustrating for homeowners when they find out they're denied for this particular program and they don't understand and they really feel they should be eligible, to continue to try to work with us and work with other community agencies so that we can come to a successful resolution of the issue. And it's a time-consuming process, but I know from the city standpoint and from the Housing Authority standpoint, our commitment is to try to help Hampton homeowners. And if they're willing to work with us, we're willing to work with them.
But you have such limitations. I mean, we can all look at that federal requirement and say, that's crazy. Why can't we just fix the roof and make this home last another 4 years or 5 years? Or, particularly in the case of someone who's elderly and, isn't necessarily going to be in that home forever. But it's just an unbendable rule. You can't do it with that money.
Yes, and what we have tried to do, we've created a new program in recent years through our Community Development Block Grant Program, because the Community Development Block Grant Program does not have the requirement that you have to bring the property completely up to code. You can do small fixes. That's what allows us, if you are handicapped and you need a wheelchair ramp, we could come in and put a wheelchair ramp
and not look at the big picture of the rest of the house.
But we created a weatherization and energy efficiency program that if you have weatherization and energy efficiency issues, that we could come in and make those improvements. But the Community Development Block Grant funds, they fund a variety of community programs. It's not just dedicated to housing.
Okay.
And so those funds are more limited and they're more competitive because a lot of communities use that to fund, community centers, support services to neighborhoods. There's a variety of things that you could fund with that program. And so the dollars that we have devoted to our weatherization and energy efficiency and some of the smaller improvements are smaller as compared to our Home Investment Partnership Program funds. Mm-hmm. But needless to say, even with the weatherization program, part of that application process is also still to send an inspector out to the home. And if there are major code deficiencies, major safety deficiencies, as a public agency, we are obligated to try to address those issues. We can't put a Band-Aid on your home and forget that we didn't see other health and safety violations that need to be addressed.
Right.
And we also have, particularly for weatherization and energy efficiency, we have an energy auditor come out to your home because we want to make sure that those improvements are tied to increasing the energy efficiency of your home and addressing weatherization issues.
And that saves the homeowner money in the long run.
Absolutely.
If they can get help with that upfront
Absolutely.
work. I know I've done some insulating and I've done some window replacement, and it does save in your electricity bill. I mean, it's a smart investment, but so many people need help up front.
Absolutely.
Being able to do that.
And so one of the things with that in terms of the energy audit, it's great because they also identify some small things that homeowners can do to save themselves money, but it also looks at the entire home. And so if you, like I say, put in an application because you have one component that you want to fix, but the audit reveals that you need to also fix X, Y, and Z, we have to make sure that we can fix X, Y, and Z under our program limit.
So it must be really hard to have to tell people it doesn't work. It doesn't work under the program. And then when somebody comes up to City Council and says, "Hey, this is crazy. Why can't you do this?" you don't always get the chance to respond. And that's part of why I wanted to have you here too. Is it sounds a little bit crazy sometimes, but it's a federal requirement. I mean, you just can't spend that money unless the project meets all of the guidelines, not just some of the guidelines.
That's correct. And Robin, one of the unfortunate things is people only get to hear about the projects that we aren't able to fund. But there are a number of Hampton homeowners that we're able to assist every year. And we don't get to hear the positive story of how these funds have been used to benefit those homeowners and Hampton neighborhoods. And so that's an unfortunate part. We usually only hear about the ones where we weren't able to assist folks. And it is difficult in those situations. And we do try to work with other community agencies to try to assist folks. We don't like to just say, no, we can't help you and we're sorry. We do try to connect you with some other resources in the community. And Aaron, I'm sorry if I cut you off. Was there something you wanted to add?
No, as you can tell, we get great direction from the city.
You guys work together a lot, I can
Great
tell. It's one
city.
of those, partnership, close things.
I just want to say on the other end of it, obviously we have to deny individuals sometimes, but on the other end, HRHA's standpoint, we try to figure out, well, how can we help clients from getting to that position eventually? So what we're talking about now and trying to figure out now is how to maybe put on our website some sort of maintenance program of how you can keep up with your home and things going on, issues going on with your home, things that you can do. Go to Home Depot, buy something, fix something yourself, so that your property doesn't get to that position where it's infeasible.
That's smart. And you guys have been, the other thing I've noticed, even in the short time I've been with the city, which is less than 2 years, kind of wrapping all of the home programs into one intake process or one central point, so that you can say to somebody, may not be program A, maybe program B, or maybe I could refer them to Habitat or some of the organizations outside the city structure that are able to offer some assistance.
Absolutely, and that's one thing that we're trying to streamline the process for Hampton homeowners, because if you're a homeowner that needs improvements, you're not going to, which agency do I call? You don't know. And so we've worked really closely with some of our partners, and 311 has been incredibly helpful to try to streamline that process. So you make one phone call and that person on the other end knows the right questions to ask you so that they can get you to the appropriate agency that can assist you. You don't have to do all of that work as a homeowner. And so I would say for anyone that's sitting at home watching the program, if you have some repairs to your home that are needed, if you need a wheelchair ramp or some minor improvements, please call 311 and let's see if we can assist you.
Okay, and that's the message I think we want to leave people with as we close is, if you have needs, if you have a parent or a neighbor who may fit one of these programs, don't be afraid to call and ask. 311 will help you figure out what documentation you need and whether there's a place that maybe we can help you and feed you into these programs. So that's really your first line, is to call 311 or 727-8311 if you're outside the city limits or on a cell phone. Thank you very much for coming. And one of the things you said today, I'm going to make you come back. I'm going to say this on camera so that we have a record of it. We need to come back and bring some of those success stories. Maybe bring a homeowner who's been helped and some before and after pictures.
Absolutely.
And really tell that side of it so that people know. And then also people see it and they might think, well, I can call, or I might be in that same boat. So
absolutely, we would love to do that
for folks. Thank you, Angelique.
Thank you.
And thank you, Aaron, for coming by today. And don't forget, if you know someone who may need some help, if you may need some help, call 311 and see if there's a program that will work for you. We will have people who will talk you through it and be able to do some of the guidelines for you and the help there. And thank you for watching this episode of Round Robin.